In the last few weeks, I was back on the road and planes, meeting with clients and investors in London, New York, and San Francisco. We often talked about how the role of digital is changing for businesses and investors, how the early digital experimentations have all grown up, real value is created now, and many companies are becoming digitally reborn. But not all. Some struggled to take advantage of the digital revolution during the pandemic and may not be quite ready for the digital-first competition ahead. There were common themes I heard across geographies and industries. For example, in the past, when crises and disruptions happen, leaders would throw people at those problems. Not anymore. With talent shortage, the Great Resignation, the Great Migration in the US and across Europe, digital tools became the go-to remedy for all problems in business. But how is the digital remedy working out? Let's take a look. No one can say that the last few years were business as usual. Far from it. Crises and disruptions happened almost constantly and unpredictably. Companies were solving multiple unknown problems. And in the constant shortage of talent, more and more digital technologies were deployed. In the last 2 years, it became the new renaissance of digital, and companies and venture capitalists invested in the trend at a level never seen before. Supply chain disrupted. Bring in AI-enabled supply chain analytics. Talent shortage. More automation and digital recruiting tools. Cost pressure. Cloud migration and digital offshoring. Increasing cyber attacks. AI-enabled threat modeling and security tools. Remote work. More digital collaboration tools. And if you encounter digital-first business models, the digital kitchen sink, meaning everything in the digital toolkit. Suffice to say, all competition is getting digital. It may be making all customer experience a digital experience, or improving the cost structure of the business. The profitability of digital business models will outperform traditional businesses. And the ultimate digital two-punch of better customer experience with lower operating costs have corporate boards and even private equity doubling down on these digital trends. No business is ignoring the trend, but change is hard. I've heard this at several digital conferences. Companies are puzzled why some are winning in their digital transformation and others are struggling. Frankly, I'm puzzled too. They all have access to the same talent, same technologies, advisors, and cheap capital. Yet the scale of digital transformations vary from a trickle to the birth of new digital natives. Ultimately, the only pattern I realized was this. The winners take higher risks and make bigger bets. But high risk is not always a winning strategy. But risk avoidance in digital seems to be guaranteed losing strategy. In a world where transformation is accelerating, there is no path for laggards to catch up. It would take exponential investment at a later stage and trying to attract talent away from digital leaders. A highly unlikely bet. So maybe what looks like a low-risk strategy becomes a very high-risk one. Leaders set the agenda, the velocity and the boldness of the digital plans. They need to take the short-term hit on performance to recalibrate the business around a new digital business model and hire the right talent and empower them to take some risks. It is hard and it is bold, which is why the ones that do will come out of this digital renaissance as market leaders. There is an interesting talent shift happening in the executive ranks as well. CEOs and CFOs are becoming more involved in technology strategy, and CIOs are reshaping the digital business models. And that brings me to the 5 digital priorities I see leading companies implement right now. Number 1, digital leadership. Companies are bringing in digital experience across business functions, from sales to marketing to supply chain. Experience with digital first or digital native businesses are at a premium. Many companies are realizing that they can't expect consultants to have the answer to their digital problems. It needs to come from within. The other trend is hyperautomation. There are winners and losers in the automation game as well. Some have truly scaled. I've seen thousands of digital assistants deployed for call centers and hundreds of processes automated end-to-end. But others got stuck with endless pilots, digital experiments, and their processes, and people stay in the past. It's happening in the same industries for similar companies. I'm not sure why. Cybersecurity is the third one. You can say nowadays that cyber attacks are not a risk, but a reality. Most businesses are being attacked every day. Businesses also realize that just because you're vulnerable, it does not mean hackers can disrupt the business. They need to prioritize and protect the most important assets like customer data. So as cyber attacks are a daily occurrence, businesses worry less about reputational risk and more about real operational disruption. Companies focus on mitigating the most likely paths to customer, financial, and supply chain data and ignore the rest. Better security often hinders customer experience though, and that is hard to balance. You need to protect your customers without making their life excessively inconvenient. The fourth trend I see is cloudify everything. It took decades, but in 2022, cloud first is becoming central to most IT strategies. The impact on cost, agility, resilience, and all the buzzwords is undisputed. Let your cloud vendors be the infrastructure business and not you. Like any transition, cloud migration may require short-term disruption and higher investment. Many companies struggle to get reduced operating costs from their cloud conversions, though. The payoff is much longer term. And the fifth priority I see is being comfortable with risk. Many forget to be an innovator, it means that you are a risk taker. The bigger the innovation, the bigger the risk and reward. From cyber threats to supply chain disruption, environmental risk, and compliance, the risk profile of today's business has increased significantly. You need to be comfortable that you cannot manage all risks. You live with them. Businesses increasingly hire advisors, leaders, employees that can operate in a more ambiguous environment, making plans based on probabilities and not deterministic expectations. That is the norm. The new world is digital. It's high risk and high reward. We are all becoming venture capitalists in a way, as we take on new and unknown challenges, and we have to be okay with the new risk and rewards. And this, we know, most winners are risk takers. Talk soon.